So stay tuned. We'll be coming up with more programming right after this.
I'll start with this poem. I wrote this poem when the bombs were dropping on Gaza, and I was the media spokesperson for the coalition, doing a lot of the organizing. And we had stayed up to about 6 o'clock in the morning, perfecting every soundbite. And by the end, if you're Palestinian, you know most Palestinians get tired and start pronouncing our P's as B's. So we become Palestinians by the end of the day. So I was practicing my P's all night. And the next morning, one of the journalists asked me, "Don't you think it would all be fine if you just stopped teaching your children to hate?" I did not insult the person. I was very polite. But I wrote this poem as a response to these types of questions we Palestinians always get. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre that had to fit into sound bites and word limits. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre that had to fit into sound bites and word limits, filled enough with statistics to counter measured response. And I perfected my English and I learned my UN resolutions. But still, he asked me, "Ms. Ziyada, don't you think everything would be resolved if you would just stop teaching so much hatred to your children?" Pause. I look inside of me for strength to be patient, but patience is not at the tip of my tongue as the bombs drop over Gaza. Patience has just escaped me. Pause. Smile. We teach life, sir. Rafif, remember to smile. Pause. We teach life, sir. We Palestinians teach life after they have occupied the last sky. We teach life after they have built their settlements and apartheid walls. After the last skies, we teach life, sir. But today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits. And just give us a story, a human story. You see, this is not political. We just want to tell people about you and your people. So give us a human story. Don't mention that word apartheid and occupation. This is not political. You have to help me as a journalist to help you tell your story, which is not a political story. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. How about you give us a story of a woman in Gaza who needs medication? How about you? Do you have enough bone-broken limbs to cover the sun? Hand me over your dead and give me the list of their names in 1,200 word limits. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits and move those that are desensitized to terrorist blood. But they felt sorry. They felt sorry for the cattle over Gaza. So I give them UN resolutions and statistics, and we condemn and we deplore and we reject. And these are not two equal sides, occupier and occupied, and 100 dead, 200 dead, and 1,000 dead. And between that war crime and massacre, I vent out words and smile, not exotic. Smile, not terrorist. And I recount 100 dead, 200 dead, 1,000 dead. Is anyone out there? Will anyone listen? I wish I could wail over their bodies. I wish I could just run barefoot in every refugee camp and hold.
Okay, and if listeners were wondering, that is a poem called "We Teach Life, Sir," and it's by Rafif Ziyada, who is a Canadian and really powerful. Folks can look up their work. So as joined now on the line with Eyad Alnuweiri and Nasser Najjar. Hello, the two of you.
Hello.
Ramadan Karim, thank you for joining on this sad day, in a way, that Ramadan is around, and we still have this going on. Can I start with Eyad? Eyad, can you give us some of your thoughts, not only about today, but over the last little while? Where are you these days in your thinking?
Greetings and assalamu alaikum to everybody listening, all the listeners. Thank you, Al-Noor, for this. Yes, these are sad times. And we are also proud people who think it is a time also of pride, the pride of the resistance and what the Palestinian people are doing on the ground. I heard the past two segments, or the segment with Mr. Hammam. brilliant stuff. Okay, I told you, Al-Noor, we were, alhamdulillah, blessed with 5 families now who have been genocided. Okay, there was a family on the 29th of October, and over the past week, 4 of my families, not a big group of people, but 4 of the families were all perished, were all killed, martyred, this including from the line of the grandparents all the way to the grandchildren. So, you know, as many thousands of families in Gaza have suffered and faced such ongoing nightmare, frankly, for this. So, you know, that's one side. That's one side, the humanitarian side. I also have family, as many others, were in Rafah. They come from the center of Gaza, and they had to move to Rafah during the past few weeks, and they ended up now going back to their original homes despite continuous Israeli bombardment. Now, we heard a lot of stuff about reducing this during Ramadan, and the man of the White House is threatening, or, you know, by words only, that they're going to do, you know, the aid should come in, should not come in. And then we have this little theatrics of dropping aid over Gaza as if this is matters. But we're still going with the genocide. We've been through the whole story, the whole saga, ICJ ruling, or near ruling, that I don't really know what happened to it right now, frankly. We're supposed to get some level of response, but nothing, none of this is happening, just from the situation on the ground. There is continuous escalation. There is going back to areas in the north, center, south. There seems like, you know, Canada and US and all the powers to be are trying to deal with this issue as if it's a humanitarian catastrophe that happened just out of, you know, some natural disaster, when it is not. Now, you know, from the Palestinian perspective, as we enter into the holy month of Ramadan, and I'll leave it to Najjar to continue on this, but from the Palestinian perspective, we are determined to liberate our land and our people. And the only place Palestinians in Gaza will go is to their original homes, valleys, villages, and towns. There's no other way. So there's a choice in front of this Zionist project of where it's going to end, right? Where it's going to end. Mahmoud Darwish mentioned in the last Indian poem a line where he says, "Oh, white master, where are you taking your people? Where are you taking my people and yours?" Okay? We are looking at this. Alan Pape, a few weeks ago, was on a podcast. Probably people have heard different versions of this. He is speaking. Alan Pape is the anti-Zionist Jewish historian, great historian and scholar. What he talked about after October 7th, there are 2 polarities in the world. One polarity are the masses of the people around the world who are witnessing this genocide in real time on industrial scale. None of it has ever happened in history, regardless what people may challenge us or challenge me or the Palestinians to explain why. It's a catastrophe of a grand scale on people who are insisting to liberate themselves. Okay, so this is the masses of the people. On the other side of that, on the other polarity, is ruling elite, the Israeli projects and its supporters around the world, which is, you know, we are the many against the few, frankly. But, you know, and these masses will punish specifically the ruling elite heavily in the next 2 to 4 years in the ballot boxes, We're looking at what's happening in the U.S., and we predict a resounding failure for Biden, regardless what the other option might be. We also predict, inshallah, we are working to make sure that those who are abetting and supporting genocide, politically, they will lose. When over the next 2 to 4 years, that's going to be the response. I think we have the masses, and we have the streets, and we have the people. It takes a while for people to organize political action in the right way, because usually the people, the solidarity movement does not have weapons of mass destruction and bombs and jets. We work in the streets, and inshallah these people will see a change. I believe, and many believe, that Gaza has done the right thing on October 7th, and a beam of light shined from there. Inshallah, to liberate the area and liberate the world with us. This is a battle of humanity, nothing less.
And Nasser, when you reflect back, we talked last week. I'm sure that your world is still upside down, and you are as busy as you always are. Can you give us some of your thoughts over the last week, and in terms of what the recent news is for you?
So I want to start by saying Happy Ramadan for everyone, and hopefully that you are blessed by having your families around, something that the Canadian government promised but didn't yet meet its promise up to this moment, to me at least, and many of Gaza and Canadians.
This is in terms of expediting their visas, issuing their visas. Is this
yes.
what? Yes. Okay.
Yes. We were promised for the reunification program to move forward, but stuck. Nothing is moving. It's kind of there are agents who respond to our phone calls, but that's as far as it goes now, and. It's unfortunate that we are not treated equally as other Canadians whose families lived through similar consequences. Of course, ours is a little bit, I would say, harsher because it's not, natural disaster. It's a man-made one, where we're feeling bitter and we're feeling sad and upset with the whole genocide that's going on in Gaza. On a personal level, I tried to contact my family for the last 3 days. I couldn't. And imagine that, Ramadan is coming over and you can't... It's hard enough, not to be with them. And now you can't even, call them for a minute or two. I learned that they're fine by text through WhatsApp. Of course, like yes, we're alive. That's all what I'm receiving for the last 3 or 4 days. Nothing more. I know that they're eating canned food because recently my cousin managed to somehow contact me, and he said that he was really happy that he managed to buy some cans for the family with prices that's been tripled or even more. So now it's getting even more expensive and ridiculous. Not only price-wise, but also because of the, when Ramadan comes in, the demand increases. So when it comes to food and different matters, it's, as he had said, what happened to us is going to be told in history. People are going to look back to it in, hopefully not a long time, in 50 years from now. I hope not even till that time. And they will say, how did the world allow for this to happen? How did the world accept that the Palestinians are treated differently? Why weren't they had the same rights as Israelis? Why didn't they have the same rights as Egyptians? Why do they have to struggle for every single life aspect, basic aspect? If you want to If you want to issue an ID, you have to go through different authorities. If you want to leave the country, you have to go through different authorities. If you want to have medication, it must be through the Israeli side. So it's like it feels like the world gave us a blind eye till the Israelis got hurt on the 7th of October. And then they discovered, they do actually exist. They do have rights. But then it's upsetting, and at the same time it's inspiring for us as a group of people who still try to remind the world that none of us are free till all of us are free.
Yeah. Eyad, when you hear Nasser, what are your thoughts when you hear Nasser speaking?
I feel for Nasser. I feel for the Palestinians and the. I feel also, you can feel in both our tones because we're living here and our people and families are back in Gaza. But there is this kind of heavy carry on the shoulders, the guilt of not being there that you spoke with Hammam earlier, and it was in place because that's kind of triggered. Look, the Palestinians have, suddenly the world woke up to the Palestinian narrative reality. It's not new. My mother side is from Yafa, and she escaped when she was a very little girl with her family running away in the first genocide, 1948, the Nakba. She ran, and she ended up refugee. They thought they're going to come back to their homes. A week or two later on, 75 years later, she still didn't. Okay? So occupation has been brutal, and calling it occupation is an undertone, or it's not occupation. It's a complete genocidal act that has been going on for 75 years. By all means. Najjar spoke of, the difficulty of living under this different. It's just brutal for 75 years. The tagging, the colors, the coloring of the IDs that you have to carry, from which region you are not, this way before anything, before even the first uprising. It was a brutal occupation. Okay? Every Palestinian revolt came for a reason. First uprising, second uprising, and now, with what's happening in Gaza, the resistance has taken a historical decision. The Palestinian issue was about to be buried totally, under complete complicity of the world, and under the rules, the global international rule, and the rule-based system that the empire created. It's not international law at all. Okay? They diverted from everything, and they thought they can bury it. They will bury us in front of a brutal, extreme right wing. Professor Norman Finkelstein, speaks of that the political system in Israel is right, ultra-right and right, extreme right and ultra-right, I think. They're all on the right. And now they were acting on the ground in the West Bank, and especially in Al-Quds, in Jerusalem, in a brutal way over the past 3-4 years. The sort of Quds battle of 2021 that the resistance in Gaza launched, it was based on the request from people inside Quds who lifted the names and the pictures of the leaders in Gaza, of the resistance leaders, asking them to interfere. So that's what the resistance is. This new resistance that is formed after, let's say, the second Intifada, insisted on liberating the people. Now, people might want to call it Hamas, or call it PSLP, or call it whatever, but it's a resistance. Gaza gave birth to this resistance, and the Palestinians are giving birth to this resistance. It's not a strange body that landed from the moon or from Mars.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we act. We are at the point of either Palestine lives or Palestine dies, and that's a tough decision that the world has to come to in front of it. Well, inshallah, we know it's going to live, and we have to liberate this land and the people from the river to the sea, from Ras al-Naqura to Rashbash Eilat in the south. It's 27,027 square kilometers. That's the size of Palestine that we are seeking to liberate. Now, many have talked about what the system is going to be after. We can discuss that in different points, but I would point to somebody like Nico Khalid and the people who are recognizing what the reality is. And, Jewish activists and thinkers will have certain view on what is it in the future is going to be. There's no doubt it has to be Palestine. Or we are since October 7th, this battle or this war is a liberation war. And everybody has to get it into their mind. We're not going to move anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Palestinians have learned this is the most expensive land, and maybe we are put by divine intervention to protect it and liberate it, Well, many people would think that, many people don't think that's the issue. But at the end of the day, we have to liberate our land. Now, you want to name it any name, you want to take it in any way, this is the way we have to deal with the future of this area. Because 75 years is long enough. The Zionist project is broken. It's an alien body inserted in the middle of a strange place. The white man in Europe and all of that decided to get rid of the Jewish problem and frankly move it into take over a country that is flourishing, a country that has Palestine was not a piece of crap, as the name said. No, it's not. It was a flourishing country. It was very economically strong country. It was export hub. It was Yafa and Haifa and all these places had theaters and had publications and was civil society. That was not armed. Palestinians were not armed. That was the problem of 1948. Okay? That's what the history is teaching us. They struggled in every way possible. They pulled one of the longest strikes in history, 1936, against the British and against the Zionist invasion. They struggled and they fought, but they didn't fight with guns and with weapons. And that's where we at now, So that's something to learn from and something to think about, frankly.
Nasser, when you're out and you're interacting with regular folks, what are kinds of shifts, or do you see any shifts in their opinions or in their stances? I remember last time we were talking about how ordinary people have been reacting to this situation. Can you comment on that?
So, it's funny enough because yesterday I was talking to a coworker of mine. He was Mexican, and he said, previously when I used to walk beside the Israeli flag, I was like, it's just another flag. It didn't catch my attention whatsoever. And now I look at it as I can't respect this. I see a different kind of flag. And I'll keep it there, but I guess we all know what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this was the thing, because I was wondering how you guys are feeling the public perspective. Obviously, as Palestinians, you probably have a better sense of it. So I wanted to gauge that, because we know where the politicians are. It's really unfortunate, and they, for a number of reasons, are definitely pulling towards Israel. And then there is public opinion and pressure, which in Canada is, really mediocre at best, right? But I wanted to get a sense of you guys' interactions with people as you're out and about.
No, it's for example, that was my Mexican friend, who's like, as I told you, he used to see the flag in like just a regular flag, and now he looks at it and it's like, oh, it looks like the Nazi flag for me. And it's not only him, like even other people. It's like they say, other coworkers of mine, it's like, I never, like, I'm not convinced with the narrative that they are bringing. No matter how much they try to convince me, it doesn't make sense. And all what you have to do is like just to be a sane person with a heart, which is the majority of the people of Canada, the mass majority of the people in Canada and the world. I believe that humans are actually born good, and then life happens. That's my opinion, and not the narrative is changing because we are blessed in this time and age that there are social media, there's media, there are honorable people around the world. There are laws. There are people who are interested in justices in general, and you can't pick and choose among social justices. You can't just say like, oh, I'm gonna be I'm gonna support Black Lives Matters and equal rights for women, and then it's like you come to Palestine, it's like, no, they deserve less human rights. It doesn't work that way. It's it's unfortunate for Israel that the age of colonialism ended. We're not in that age where enslaving people is accepted anymore, even for religious reasons. It's like, because I don't believe, like, with all the respect, when you say that you're God-chosen people, like, I'm a Muslim. I'm like, it's like, so it's for you. Yes, that's within your book. But in my beliefs, it's you're a regular person who has a different religion. So you can't impose your Zionism on me. You can't impose your ideology on me. And I'm not talking about religion. As Judaism. Judaism is a wonderful ancient religion that's been there for thousands of years, and it's been spreading love and wisdom through history.
Definitely, yes.
And it's like, but Zionism is a racist ideology. It's built upon colonialism heritage. So those are two different things. It's like day and night.
Absolutely.
Now, for us as Palestinians, as Arabs, as Muslims, as people of color, as progressives, like we came late to the game of lobbying. We understood this. So our system in North America, unfortunately, it's built on lobbying. It's not from a political point of view, away from a humanitarian point of view. It's like, so the more that you put pressure, the more that you have a lobbying group, and the more that you put pressure, the bigger your group is, the more influencing they are, the more that you can push your ideas into the politicians, the more that you will succeed. And this was something that I've noticed firsthand when we asked for ceasefire here in Canada. Yes, politicians did not want to say that. And you do remember, and I'm pretty sure Eyad did, when the Prime Minister, he was about to say ceasefire, then he swallowed his word back. But then, thankfully, we were backed by Black Lives Matters, by Independent Jewish Voices, by mainly NCCM, and all of us pushed for this with all the good people of Canada, with all the good people of British Columbia, who stood for us, and they showed that humanity do matter. It's not an easy game. And I'll be honest with you, I'm so new to it. But we will shift. One last thing I'm gonna say before Eyad returns back. I don't know if you watched the Oscars or not, Alnur.
I didn't know. Tell me about him.
So yesterday there was this speech that was done by a Jewish director, and everybody like really clapped hard for it, and they were. It was a fascinating speech. I'm really sorry that I forgot the director's name. I'll bring it out in a second. But then 30 years ago there were similar speeches, and they were met with anger, and actors, whoever dared to bring up the Palestinian struggle or even Palestinian human rights, they were put in aside. This is not the narrative anymore. It's the other way around. Look at Gal Gadot. I don't think she's going to be able to go in a movie anymore.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. So let me just respond quickly to the question. So I know there's a lot of things that Najjar said that should be broken down and just further elaborated on. Okay, from the aspect of what we feel, the response to the genocide and to the steadfastness of the resistance, both of these are combined. The global response has been astronomical. I've been in the Palestinian movement since the early 90s. Okay, right after the first uprising. What's happening now since October 7th is by far, and I think it has been dubbed so by many now, it's the biggest solidarity movement in history, even bigger than the Vietnam solidarity movement that happened in Vietnam in the 60s, with the USA specifically. And it is the fastest to form itself within a few weeks. Actually, from the first week, it was massive demonstrations in this week. And these, by the way, as you know, response here in the West, in Canada, the US, Europe, and some, for example, South Africa, and some of these large, it has been much bigger, much more organized than what's happening even inside the Arab world. The movement in the Arab world is dwarfs next to what's happening here. It is, what we're seeing is a completely organic movement, completely against genocide, because people are witnessing genocide in real time. Many people know that the Palestinian struggle is old. It's the last colonial project in here, and on the forefront of the struggle since my early involvement in the late 80s, early 90s of the Palestinian movement and anti-war movement, anti-Zionist Jewish, Jewish activists were on the front lines. Always they have been in the front lines. And there's many written about this, and if anybody interested, do your homework and do your research and look how old this movement has come in. It goes back even to somebody like Israel Shahak. Israel Shahak was many Palestinian people in the struggle continue to consider him as a comrade and a Palestinian, frankly, much like Miko Khalid and some of these other Jewish scholars now, who from the beginning of the struggle stood by the Palestinian narrative and stood by the Palestinian issue. They witnessed the first genocide that happened, and now they're witnessing the second genocide. So this movement is bigger than anything else we have ever seen. I have, from my humble point of view, and it's marked by a new thing that Najjar gonna allude into the different generation that is coming up. This generation from between, I think they call them millennials and Gen Z, excuse my, maybe this is my definition I have in my mind, but it's people who are kind of between 16 years old and 36 years old, kind of thing, you know? This generation is not, first of all, people consider them at what point of time that they are not disconnected, they are on social media, all that, but the reality of the situation is they are much more aware and much more courageous. They're brave. I always, in my public speeches and in these rallies, I will always praise this young generation that is not accepting genocide. If it happened in any other place in the world, people's response would have been the same time. But I think the Palestinian issue, the Palestinian cause, has its roots. People have worked on this cause for many, many, many years. The anti-apartheid movement for South Africa, also people worked on it for many, many years, 40 or 50 years, anti-apartheid movement that liberated eventually South Africa from the apartheid system. So there always has been this struggle. And of course, we're witnessing, in addition, I think, and I want to just bring this issue to the front line here, the indigenous communities at least in Canada. I met many of them in the U.S. and here, but this new generation of indigenous communities, they are so fearless. They carry this spirit of resistance in them. They're not being fooled by theatrics and superficial celebrations in Canada for their heritage after they eliminated and they genocided 98% of the population. Our struggles are connected. And finally, we're seeing this going all over the world. Najjar spoke of, yes, most of the people in the world are good-hearted people. We have to believe that. Otherwise, we are living in hell, right? And people see these things, see what's happening in real time. The narrative of the enemy or the cult of genocide is not standing. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on the messaging and crafting and, thousands of PR companies around the world trying to, put this and put that. And everything is failing in front of them because you cannot cover genocide with your thumb. You can't. Okay? And the growth of this movement is, especially in social media, and take it to the streets. We're gathering here in the streets in Vancouver. At most of the times, we're looking at a crowd of 10,000 people and more, in these gatherings. And we're witnessing the young and the old, the brave people leading this week upon week, relentlessly, patiently, tying the global struggle of Palestinians to the global struggle of these people around the world. It's outstanding that we're seeing Latin and Caribbean countries come together and put statements that defies this international rule-based order. We're seeing China and Russia and others coming out and slowly moving towards that this cannot continue. The big problem in front of the Zionist entity is at this time, is that they know that this is a matter of existence. What so-called Israel, between quotations, this is either you make Israel live forever or this is the end of Israel as we know it. And that's what they're facing. That's why they're going into this. They're willing to lose a lot of their soldiers who are being hammered in Gaza. The resistance that we have does not target people. It targets the army that's invading the invaders. And they're giving them one hell of a day upon day. People can just see what the resistance is doing on the ground until today. These are the sons of the land. These are the masters of the land. They know it centimeter by centimeter, and they're willing to put a fight that is unprecedented. 100 and almost we're cutting off 6 months, and this is standing, okay? And the people are with it. That's what they're facing. That's what the Zionist entity is facing. It's a long supported project around the world. Najjar spoke of this power that is embedded inside, that is selecting governments and electing governments, and Jaime Saban putting $200 billion to support people who want Israel, 200 million people to suppress the people who are against Israel. CIJA is paying here as much, they're putting it live in front of everybody. They're spending this much of money to depress the issue of Palestine and incriminate and outlaw, which is not going to work. It's not going to work. None of this is going to work. This issue and this cause is bigger than their PR, and their money and their all of that. I'm sorry to divert into this, but it's important to put some real definitions to what we are talking about here. I don't know.
Well, no, definitely. These are really important and ongoing conversations. Yeah, that's, as we've talked, we hope that we continue covering the issues and basically segmenting it and being able to cover and discuss the variety of issues that are at play. I think Nasser has had to leave us at this moment. He had an appointment, could only join us for a brief period. So, Eyad, I'm going to leave it to you for the last word before we call it a close for this conversation.
Thank you, Alnour. Thank you very much for pulling this together. And yes, we should continue the conversation. I think I've spoken enough. I think people need to, in this time, to give up on the Gaza or Palestine. We know this is a long fight. I told you earlier, Alnour, I had a friend just after. She called me the same day when the first family was bombed, and I didn't tell her. And she's Canadian, she's professional, ex-colleague. I know her husband, and they have little children. And I talk with her once in a while. And she called, and she said, She asked me how am I doing? So fine. But then she asked me, how are you dealing with this? And I said, well, I'm dealing with it. This is something that's happening. We just have to be patient, and we know what we are getting into. And she told me, look, this is a month since the bombing and all of that. She told me that she couldn't eat or sleep. She couldn't work. And her husband and everybody in their offices and all of that everybody is long faces. They're saying, I don't know how, under the genocide, how it happened. And I think this is still continuing until now. I think people need to be brave and do something to stop this genocide and help in liberating the Palestinian people. By the word, by the thinking, by prayers, by putting a post, by going to the street and holding a flag, by putting a sign and what in front of me where I'm living, there is my neighbor. I have a neighbor who she has in her windows Free Palestine. I never seen this woman putting anything before for anything, and I'm grateful and thankful, and Gaza is thankful. So I'm saying, be brave. This is a time where we have governments that have been complicit with this issue, that we need to think, each one of us need to think what we want to do with them. And I think the last thing is to try to help the Palestinian people directly in Gaza. Try to help them. There are many venues and ways to do it, either financially or by any other means. There are a group of doctors who are preparing to go from here soon, from Canada. Just time to be patient and be resilient and give trust to the Palestinian resistance. Well, it is still in control of the ground, and inshallah, our conditions are simple. We're not asking for a lot of things, But now things maybe have changed, in the way of how the world is behaving. So we'll see what's going to come. Sorry, no. Go ahead, ask me.
No, I was just going to ask you to point to listeners to any organizations that you find useful, credible, where folks could be able to financially support. I mean, I think that's the least people can do is financially support. And I know that there are avenues. Where would you point people to?
So the Center for and Red Crescent, and I think all of this goes, the accounts will go to the Red Crescent in some areas.
Mm-hmm.
There is also, and people are encouraged to do so, I know it's a little bit difficult, but directly contributing to the UNRWA.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to any of these sites, you'll be able to see what's the best way to do it. There is, of course, different organizations that is kind of towards the child development and all of that. The name escapes me right now, but maybe we can put this later on. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, sure. We will definitely put it up for listeners. Absolutely. Eyad, I wanted to thank you again for taking this time out in what is obviously a very, very difficult time. I mean, the fact that you guys are open to and willing to come and speak and share is something for us. Just unimaginable what is happening. Thank you so much, and we do look forward to calling you again, inviting you, and if the timing is right, then we will continue.
You have a good evening and Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you.
Thank you. So we were speaking with Eyad Alnuweiri and Nasser Najjar, asking them to give us some of their updates, some of their thoughts and feelings about what they are going through. And we thank them for doing that. And earlier on,